Thanks for joining me here at Fun Stuff Crafts for a tutorial on Design Space. Let's get started. So let's take a look at Design Space. As you can see on my desktop, I've got an icon for Design Space. So we're going to click on it and load it. And once it loads, I of course always make it larger so we can get a better look. So just looking at the home page of Design Space, it's got some great things going across here, just announcing some new things that Cricut is offering. So that's always nice to kind of get an idea of what's going on. The next section of Design Space is going to show me my current projects. Now I can either scroll going across this way to look at the projects I've been working on, or I can click on the View All, and the View All is going to take me so that I can go down and scroll this way. So it's whichever way that you prefer to do it. To get back to where I was, I can just go back to my projects, and this now is showing that all category. Okay, so when I want to go back to the home page where I was, I would just click right back up to this bar here. Now let's take a look at what's under that bar. Of course, it's our home button. It's going to take me directly to my canvas if I want to get to my canvas. Also, this is where you would go if you needed to set up a new machine. If you at any time get an error that says your machine needs to be calibrated, this is where you come. You can also manage custom materials here. You can do a firmware update. Every once in a while, Design Space is updated, and this is where you can go in and check to make sure you've got the most current version. Your account details. This would tell like I'm a member of Access, and so I get lots of images included in my Access subscription. This is also where you can link cartridges. So if you've been with Cricut for quite a while, you know back in the day we had individual cartridges, and this is where if you've owned some, you could go in and link your cartridges. This is Cricut Access, and I referred to that earlier, but this is where you can get all kinds of images for free use for a monthly or annual subscription price. This is just your basic settings, good old legal piece here. And then if you want to do a quick look at just what new features are in Access, this is where you'd find them. This is where you're going to set your country code. Anytime you need help, there's a help button here, and to sign out. So let's go back to just our home page for Design Space. So as I indicated, the very first thing I see here is my projects. Now if I want to see a project and I just want to get some details on it, I can click on here and it will just give me a quick view of what I did. If I wanted to go in and make it right now, I would just click here and it would take me directly to my mat layout. So this is all of the projects I've been working on. The ones down below are Cricut Access, and I indicated that I'm a member of Cricut Access, and so these are all projects that are free to me, ready-made projects through Cricut Access. So let's just click on one just to show you what that means. If I click on this recipe one, it shows me what the little recipe box looks like, or what the project would look like. It's going to give me some pictures to give you an idea. As you scroll down, it gives you a description of the project, what the finished size would be, what materials you're going to need. These are the ones we're going to be cutting, and then these would be the ones, what else you would need to make the project. It's going to give you the preparation, the cut, how to assemble it, and then Cricut's got some great videos or some frequently asked questions help advice if you need it. Now, as you can see here, mine says $0, and that's because I'm part of Cricut or Access. So if I just exit right here, this will take me back out, and we are back down. Now, the nice thing here is there's other ready-made projects here. So for example, this is a ready-made project. It doesn't have the A for Access. So if we click in this one, and this one still doesn't have a cost to it, but if there was a cost, that's where that would show up. The other thing that's good to look at is this is an easy project. How it's rated takes about 30 minutes to an hour to make. So it kind of gives you an idea of what your timing would be for a project. So as you go down, you can see the new infusible ink, which is one of Cricut's latest and greatest things they've rolled out. This is for some of the new materials. Just you keep going down, you can find all kinds of great things right here on your landing page for Cricut Design Space. So when it comes time that I want to make a project, I can either click here to start a new project, or I can click up here for a new project. This is also where I can select what machine I'm going to be using. I happen to have a Cricut Explorer and the Maker. I primarily use my Maker for almost all my projects now. So let's go ahead and click on New Project. And then let's take a look at, this is our canvas. It's a nice clean canvas for you to start with. Again, you still have those bars if you want to get back to the home page. You could start a new project when you're inside of another project. Now I don't need to click on this one right now because we're already in a project. So let's go down this left-hand tile first. So the very first one is templates. So templates is something that I like to use mainly when I'm doing my heat vinyl transfer, my iron-on projects. So let's just scroll down here and you can see there's all types of templates. One of the most common ones I use is for t-shirts. So let's go down and, okay, I've got a scoop neck t-shirt. And this feature is what I really like here, is it says, okay, what type do you have? Let's say I'm going to do a woman's t-shirt and I am going to do a medium. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me a template of the shirt on the screen, and you can see it here. And this is what I can use to judge the size of my project. So you can definitely take your t-shirt, you can get your ruler out, and you can do it that way. But this is just a way that you can have it all right in Design Space. Okay, so that's what the template one is. Projects is going to take you right back to the project page, which we've already looked at. So let's look at images. So Design Space has so many different images you can choose from. And as you can see, being part of Cricut Access, I've got the little A's here. It also says I'm subscribed. So those images are all free to me. But if you go down, you will see a cost on images, and we'll see that in a minute as we go through. Now, there are so many to look for, and if you tried to just look for a specific thing here, you could be here for literally hours. So there's a couple different things we can do. We can look by category. So this one is fun. Free this week. So Cricut always offers some free projects, and you can see it's back to school time. So there's a lot of free ones. Now, they may not be free later on. They're just advertising them for this week. Some of the other categories you can look at is most popular, recently added. Maybe we're working on an anniversary gift or something for an anniversary. So you could click on here and it's going to give you some ideas of what you can do. Maybe you're making a card, making a sign, whatever. It's all going to be related to anniversary. The other one to look at is cartridges. So say I had a cartridge and I want to look for any cartridge that has to do with birthday. And then this will give me all these different cartridges. Now, this is an example of if you're not a member of Access, this particular cartridge here, Beyond Birthday, has 160 images. And it's telling you I could buy it for $29.99. Okay, so most images are usually about 99 cents. So it's definitely a great deal if you just buy the whole cartridge. So just an idea on cartridges. Let's go back to images and let's stick with the birthday theme. But another way to drill it down is to use our filter feature. So for filters, I could say, I only want to see ones that I own, or I only want to see ones that are for Cricut Access if I'm a member. That way I'm not worried about grabbing one that costs some money. And maybe I want to look at a birthday one that is just card related. Or maybe I want to look at one that is just a single layer project. So nothing there on that one. but it just gives you an idea of how you could drill down just a little bit further on projects. So let's just go ahead and go back to, since it's back to school time, let's go and grab an image that we can put on our workspace. So let's find something that will work. And it looks like my filter for cards is still on, so I want to take that off. And so then we come back to all these different cool items for back to school. So let's just grab this one. Before we do though, I want to show you something on these. This one right here has got a printer icon. This means it is a print and cut project. This one does not have the printer. You can make it a print and cut project, but right now it is not. So let's just go ahead and grab this back to school. And all you need to do is come down here and click Insert Image. And let's get rid of that template. We don't need that template anymore. And so let's just hide that. And let's make our, down here you can make your screen larger or smaller. So now we've got our back to school image in there. So let's just put that off to the side for a minute. We'll use that in a few minutes, but let's continue to go down. So we've now talked about templates. We've talked about finding projects, images. Now let's look at text. So let's just do, since we're talking about our Cricut, let's just do Cricut. Here, right here is where we can pick the different font styles. So it's really fun to be able to do this because you can watch it change. So say I want to do something like this. I can see what it looks like when I'm working with one. Now, if you've got some favorite fonts, you can also just go up and click on a font that you really like. If you just want to look at system fonts, you sure can, or you can look at just your Cricut fonts, or you can click on all, whichever you would like. The other thing I like here is you have the ability to look at your fonts by multi-layer, single layer, or writing. Whenever I'm writing on a birthday card, I always like to come in here and grab just the fonts that are set up to write really nice. So that way I could grab one of these and now I've got a font that would print really nice on a card. Okay, so as we're talking about fonts, we've changed it here. I've made it a writing style. This is also where I can make changes if it wasn't just a writing style. I can change the size of my font here, or I can grab this little bar and change the font. Either way. Letter spacing, I can increase my letter spacing or I can decrease it. This one I like to use when I'm using a cursive print so I can join it together. And then this is line spacing. Of course, I've only got one print or one row, so it wouldn't do the lines. And then this one is left, center, or right, so you would align it. This next feature is a fun feature that was one of the new features with Design Space. And what you can do is you can actually curve your writing. And so you can just click here or I can click here. So kind of fun to be able to do that. The other one that I use quite a bit is this advanced feature. Now the advanced feature, because I've only got one line, it's only saying to ungroup, but I could have multiple lines or I could have layers. But if I ungroup my letters, I could pull this C out and I could actually make it a different font. If I wanted to, for whatever reason, I could also change the size of that C. So that's something that you can do when you use the advanced feature. Now, one button I love is up here is our undo button, and it's going to undo each one of our steps, and it's going to, you can see it's walking through everything that I had done, and then it's going to put my words right back together. Okay, so that is really our text feature. Lots of things you can do with text. You can cut text, you can print text, or you can write with text. The other one we can do is we can add shapes. Now these shapes, it doesn't matter if you're part of Access or not, these shapes are all available to you. So you can go in here and do a shape, and you can change the color of the shape. And this is where your arrange button comes in handy up here, is I can move that shape to the back. So if we're working on a card, this is definitely something we can do. Okay. Now the next button, let's get rid of that shape. The next button is upload. And upload is if you've got a SVG file that you've purchased from someplace, you can actually do an upload. And I'll have a whole separate video on uploading images. Okay. So for example, we had grabbed this Mario Brothers one for a card. So if I clicked on that, that was one of my uploaded images. I would have that in here that I could use for a card. Okay. So now let's go across the top. So across the top, we've got lots of great things here. Okay. So right now I've got this set to draw, right? If I want to change this, and these are some of the new features that Cricut just added with the score, the engrave, the deboss, the wave, the perforation. These are all the different line types. So if I wanted to change that Cricut, the text that we have there, to be a cut text, now you will see that this is going to change to a cut. Okay, so let's change that back to a right, to a draw. Okay, this is where I can change my color. So I could change it to a green. And keep in mind, this is going to draw, so it would draw it in a green. Okay, so let's take a look at this guy over here. So I'm going to get rid of our text for now. Let's start looking at our image. Okay, so our image right now, whenever you bring an image in, it is set up in a group. Okay, so these are all grouped together. You can see as I move them. But when you look down here, they're all separate. So let's take a look over here, and you can see on our right-hand panel that we have got 4 different areas of this back-to-school image. And as you can see, under my very first icon, group is grayed out because right now this image is grouped. So if we were to ungroup it, we would be able to grab the different pieces of the image. Okay. Once again, remember how I like that erase or back button? It's going to take us back where we were. Okay. So now we have got a grouped image. Now, why do you want something to be grouped? Well, you want it to be grouped if you want to resize it. If I had this ungrouped and I grabbed on one of the layers, it would only resize that one layer. So really important to keep it grouped together that way. Okay. The other thing we want to do with ungrouping it is we can make some changes here if we wanted. So say we wanted to maybe not have this say back, or we wanted the back to have a different color. We don't necessarily have to ungroup it for the bees to change, but just to show you, I can go in here and I can make those changes. I could maybe, by ungrouping it, I could rearrange this so it looks a little bit differently. I could group those ones back together, and then I can bring that back here. So you can make those type of changes. Okay. Now I definitely could have changed my color right here, right? I could have grabbed this and I could have moved it all as a group, but I couldn't have moved it individually. So another reason why you would want to ungroup. Okay. So let's do that back button again and just get back to where we were. Kind of like that blue and the way it was spaced. So it's always nice to know that you can take it back to where you were. Okay, so this is our set or our design as we originally brought it in. Okay, so you notice that everything is grayed out right now because I do not have anything selected on my workspace. So if I click on here, all of a sudden I've got some options available to me. Okay, so duplicate. Duplicate is It's just what it is I'm literally going to duplicate. Now, did you guys notice what happened? I only had the black part highlighted, okay? So if I want to duplicate this whole thing, I would grab the whole thing, then I would hit duplicate, okay? So you can duplicate pieces or you can duplicate just the entire project, okay? So now, while we've got this listed or shown like this, I want to show you guys something. This is our layer palette, right? So when you go down the right-hand side, it can get kind of confusing as to what you've got going here. So I like to think about this as a pile of paper. This is the bottom of my paper, okay? This is the very bottom thing that's on my paper. This is on top of that cut, and the A is the next one, the C is the next one, and then we have the next project. Okay, so what's good about that is whoops, we don't have these guys grouped, so let's group this together. I want to show you this. So I'm going to group that, and I don't have this one grouped. So all I need to do is grab it with my mouse and wrap it around, and I can group them. Okay, so now we've got this back to school right here is grayed out more, so it's on top. And this back to school is grayed out down here. It's on bottom. And I can show you that because if I put these together, they're going to go underneath. Okay? So that's a way that you would always know which is which. Okay? So that is our we went through our group, we went through the ungroup, the duplicate, and then the delete button. So the delete button, Cricut always gives you options to delete, right? So I can delete up here in the delete feature, right? Or my X right by the back to school, I can use as a delete. So let's just go ahead and delete there. Okay, so we're back to one image on our screen right now. So now we've went through all of these features. Let's talk about the little eyes here. So sometimes my screen can get a little busy, and sometimes I like to make multiple projects at a time. And so let's just add in a couple more images just to add in some images, just so I can show you what I'm talking about. So say I had some multiple projects going here, and I don't want to get rid of them because I do want them at a later date. So what I can do there is I can click on the little eyeball here and you can't see it anymore. So when you think about it is if you can see the eye, you can see the image and you'll cut the image. If you can't see the eye, you can't see the image and it will not cut. But I can very easily bring that image back. All I have to do is undo or click on the eye. Now this one is an interesting one for us to look at, because this one came in when we brought it in with 2 layers, but there is a 3rd layer you can't see. And so you can click or unclick that. So it just gives you the option to do that. Okay, so that is really where we're seeing all the options there going down that left-hand panel. Excuse me, right-hand panel. Can't tell my right from my left some days. So let's go ahead and get rid of these guys that we've got here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move down to the bottom features. Okay, so the bottom features are not highlighted for me right now because, of course, I didn't have my image highlighted. So the one I want to show you first is Slice. And Slice is not highlighted because Slice has got some requirements. You can only slice 2 images. So when I think about slice, I think about taking a piece of paper and cutting out part of it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to grab the BK and we're going to use my shift key and we're going to grab the back to school. Okay, so what's going to happen is now I've got these 2 highlighted and those are the 2 we're working with. Now my slice feature is available to me and I'm going to hit slice. So let's see what happened here. All of a sudden I have got, I can take these out and now I have got this image. Oops. There's back to my regular image. I have sliced out the BK out of here. Okay. So sometimes that one is a fun feature to use. I use it a lot even when I'm trying to make some changes to an image I've already brought in. So this would be an example of if I were to cut this one out right now, that would cut the B and the K out of this design. Okay. And then maybe I want to do the A and the C separately, and I could slice those out if I wanted. Okay. So that is the slice feature. The one thing I like about the slice feature is my original image is exactly where it was, except for when Lisa decides to click on something and it disappears on us, which it should not have done. So let's go back to our back button and let's bring back that image from being sliced. Always fun when you're doing a video and something doesn't quite go as you planned on, but that's another reason why you can see that Design Space is very forgiving. So now we're back to our original back to school. So let's make this a little bit smaller and let's use our duplicate. Okay, so we've got it grouped together. So let's say we want to make a banner that is back to school. So I'm going to bring these just overlapping. Oops, and just overlapping. Okay. And I can either do my select all, which is the easy one here. And I've selected all of those, and now I'm going to use the weld feature. Okay. So now the one thing we don't like about that is when you use the weld feature, everything has to be the exact same color. So you can now not see the back to school, okay? But we have got a banner that is just to school, to school, to school, okay? So probably not the best example of the weld feature, but it definitely gives you an idea of you can pull things together and weld them together. Where I like to use the weld feature a lot is, let's just pop over here to text for a second, and let's just type Lisa, okay? And let's grab a bigger font. And right now that is 4 different letters for Lisa, right? So if I go to my advanced feature, remember that we used before, and we ungroup the letters, I can move these over next to each other. Okay. I can grab them all together, and because I've got it as a draw, I've got to change it to a cut. Okay. So now it is a cut feature. And my weld is not going to work, so that's not a good example. So let's try that one more time. Let's go to Lisa. Let's get a font. Let's grab a font that is not a writing font. Okay, so there we go. That was my problem. I still had it as a writing font. You can't weld something that you're going to write. Okay, so now let's go ahead and ungroup those letters. Let's move that Lisa together. Now, if I just did this just like this and I went to make, it would still cut out all my letters individually and I'd have cuts. Whereas if I grab this together now, I can do my weld feature, and that is all welded together, and it will be one cut. Okay, so let's go ahead and undo. Okay, let's just clean up our workspace here a little bit. And you notice how this is all together, so I'm just going to clean it up. Okay, so let's grab another image. Let's go ahead and let's do back to school. Actually, let's grab this back to school. And we insert it, and we've got that back to school. Okay. So right now, over here, you can see this is a cut file, okay? If we wanted to make this a print file, all we would do is hit our flatten, okay? And now it turns to a cut and print. So if I went to my Make It button up here in the top corner, you can see that this is going to go to a print first, and then it's going to cut it out. Okay, so that's a fun little feature to use. To get back, all we do is hit cancel, and it will take us back to where we were. Now, let's grab, this is probably isn't the best image to show you the next feature. So I'm just going to grab, let's see what fun image that we can grab. Let's grab this guy. Okay, so remember, if we don't want to get rid of this, but we want to hide it, we can just do our little eyeball. And so now we've got this guy all in here. Okay, so now what we can do is we can look at the contour one. Okay, so if I wanted to, let's ungroup these. And let's grab that back page. Okay, so what I've done is I've highlighted just that back guy, and now contour, what it will do is it will show me where I can remove pieces of an image, and it gives you all the different images you could do. So if I decided I didn't want that little circle there, or I didn't want that to show up, I can go out here, and it's kind of hard to see, but see, this is where you would change and remove things. The good example here, if I can find this one flower, there's a really cute flower that has got a little layer on it. So let me see if I can grab, well, let's just grab this guy. So let's hide that. Let's just get rid of back to school now. Oops. How about we just move our flower? Okay. So if we go to contour now with the flower, and say we didn't want those middle sections to be showing up in the flower, see how every single thing is showing up. So if I just go here, here, and here, and here, see how my flower has changed. So it's one image, so I can't just make one individual change, but if I do the contour piece, I can make those changes. Okay, so hopefully that part makes sense to you guys. Now, one thing we didn't talk about is what it looks like when you go to make something. So let's throw another image in there. Let's just go ahead and grab this for now. I've had people ask me about the colors, and you know, what you cut is what color you cut is gonna be based on the material you put on the machine. The whole reason Cricut gives you the availability to change the colors is so you can conceptually get an idea of what your project looks like. But in this case, I have got quite a few different colors in this project. Say I wanted my greens to match up, okay? One feature we didn't look at was color sync. And color sync is up here in the upper right hand corner. And you can see that I've got 4 colors available, okay? So say I wanted my greens to be the same. I could just grab this guy and move him up there, and now my greens are the same, okay? The reason why there's a gray showing is there is a gray background there, but if we click back over to layers, we'll see that it is not showing, okay? Now, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers showing, right? So let's just click on our Make It button. And our Make It is going to place our mats into the 4. And the reason why it's the 4 is, remember, we switched our greens to be the same. Okay. Now, one thing I like to show everybody is when you put your items on your mat, this is how you want to put your cardstock, your vinyl, whatever it is you're cutting is going to cut in this area. But you have the ability to move this around. So say you're using a scrap piece of paper. You could move this anywhere here, but Cricut automatically just puts it so you can get the most out of your project, okay? Now, if I was doing this as an iron-on project, we would click over here to put this as a mirror image. And we'll do a whole project just on iron-on projects, but just so you know, that's what that button's for. The other thing you have here is your material size. You have the availability to go to a larger size. If I, instead of duplicating on my canvas, if I decide I want to make 2 of this gray layer, I can make 2. Now it only changed for this one right here, but if you go down here, you can see that it has made 2 for each one. So it's duplicating my entire design. Okay. So now let's do a couple things here. Let's go back to just one design for each one. So keep in mind, this is going to do 4 different cuts. And the reason why I have the different cuts as a reminder is there are the different colors that when I did my design. Okay, so when I go ahead and click continue here, what is going to happen is the very first thing it's doing is it is trying to find my machine. Now, when you set up your machine initially, it would have went through the steps, so it's going to recognize that my maker is working on Bluetooth. So it's picked up my maker. Now, a couple things to remember here. If your machine's not turned on, it's not going to find it. So I always make sure my machine is turned on before I click make it. So it has found my machine. Okay, now it's saying, hey, what materials are you going to be using? Now I've got 4 sets of materials that I use quite a bit, but for this project, let's go ahead and just click over to get materials, and you can see Cricut has just got an unbelievable amount of different options that we can cut with our machine. So let's just type in cardstock, because this flower I would be using, maybe for a card. And then you can pick out the different types of cardstock. Normally I like to use the medium cut cardstock, but you can read on your cardstock, it usually tells you what the weight of your cardstock is. So go ahead and click on that. And then the next thing your Cricut is going to tell you, or Design Space is going to tell you, is what you should be loading in your machine. Okay, now my maker has got a A and a B clamp. It's saying I don't need anything for the A clamp. Normally your A clamp is if you are writing something or if you are scoring something. My B clamp says it wants my fine point blade. So the machine is smart enough to know what blade I should have. And then it is telling me to load my mat. And that is all the steps that I'm going to complete inside of Design Space. So I would then get my mats ready. I'm going to have 4 different cuts. I just use one mat, and so I'm going to get my paper ready. I did not have any gray on hand, so I'm using cream color in place of the gray. And you can see I loaded my machine, and then my Cricut told me it was ready to cut. So I clicked on the little C, and it is cutting my first layer. Now I'm going to fast forward through this next section, and you'll see each one of the layers cutting. So once my design was done, I was able to put it together and make this cute flower. I really want to thank you for joining me today for this fun tutorial on Design Space. And if you liked what you saw today, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel. And thanks so much for joining me here at Fun Stuff Crafts.